Yeah, we're recording. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. Wee. That is what we call a pregnant pause. When I was like, should I? Oh well, dead air. Ha. Hi everybody.
Good morning.
How we doing? How we doing? I can tell you how we're doing. Slow getting going today. We have less than 40 minutes till our first lesson is going to show up, and we know she's going to show up on time, if not early. So,
It's
welcome. We're going to see what we can do with today's Dear Becky and Lizzy. Welcome to the sideshow. Let me do things in order. Welcome to the sideshow. What do you want to say?
That you're doing things in order. That's not a thing. It's the Dear Becky and Lizzy.
I'm trying. Yes, it's Thursday. It's the Dear Becky and Lizzy edition of the sideshow. I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner. Today I'm Becky, the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber. Stop it! The owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in sunny but chilly Brevard, North Carolina.
It got foggy between the time I got here and the time she got here. I'm Liz. I'm the Minion there.
I drove through some fog on the way here. It's true. You know, I had frost. I had to scrape off my windshield this morning.
I have a frost fairy.
Just frost fairy.
It's related
AKA
to the
Bernie
laundry fairy.
I do it my own darn self. I'm a self-sufficient woman. No, I can't really say that because Brian cooks like every meal at home, so I'm lazy. But I do scrape my own windshield. My scraper, it's one that I don't know what is wrong with it. It doesn't look like it's busted, but it doesn't scrape the whole length of the little scraper. I scrape it and it's like the corners are scraped, but it doesn't look.
Sorry, the brick workers are back.
If you can hear banging, that's not us, and we apologize. They're laying brick outside, and they got going. It's not early. It's 9:25, so it's not early, but they got going. So, yeah. But
life.
Yeah, they haven't been here for a few days, so I think they're trying to get all the dried out cement out of their machine. That's been there for probably a week or so.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway. Can you tell it hasn't even been a day, and it's been a day. Oh my Lord. So, oh good. Sorry. My dad got his vaccine today, shot today.
Yay.
I got distracted. So, and of course my sister's already texting back. If she watches this, she's gonna go, don't talk about us on camera. So, okay, I'll stop. Yeah, anyway, where was I? Banging. That's where I was. Yeah, it's already been a day, and it hasn't even been a day. We just got here, but I got here late, and we're just filming now. But for the Dear Becky and Lizzy edition, we'll see what we get through with our questions, and we'll wrap up close to 10. And again, apologies for whatever. And if they turn on their machine, that's going to get even, louder. So I might be able to manipulate the volume levels, but I don't think I can separate out. I use iMovie, secrets revealed. Ooh. And I think that has one soundtrack. So, So this microphone, which you can't even see, we'll get into why in a second. This microphone is not picking that up, hopefully, but that microphone probably is.
Because it's on the other side of the big pile that we created yesterday.
Yeah, so this pile, so if you follow us on social media, I posted the pile from this side. So so you could see, like, we were brainstorming about kits. And most of what you can see went into some kind of kit picture we took yesterday.
One of us had a bee in their bonnet to get kits made. The other one had a bee in the bonnet to get another papillon started.
I wonder.
I don't know.
Who could it be?
But there was talk about sweaters too. So
well, yeah. you know, I'm wearing my Calliope, which you can't even see the sparkles on, but it was warm and fuzzy this morning. I was cold at home, so I'm still wearing this too because I'm still cold. So, yeah, let's see how well our concentration works. I don't know about you, but it's gonna be rough for me because it's bang, bang, bang. But they gotta do their job. It's all good.
So we have an email.
There's a wall out there that needs to be finished.
We have an email and we have a letter.
Okay, I forget if there was something else before we started. Oh, related to the wall. Hang on, and then we'll do the email and letter. Related to the wall. I had the best of intentions. We did all this work. I forced Liz to do all this work yesterday. And
no, really, she forced me because I
there's
wasn't feeling kits.
Yeah, either you weren't feeling kits or you weren't feeling specific kits, which shall not be named. Okay.
Yeah.
So I best of intentions, all these pictures. I'm like, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna edit and I'm gonna put up kits and rawr. And I got home and went, I can't even move off the couch. There's the machine. We get to test if people can hear this or not. Yeah, okay. I could talk about that on camera, but I shouldn't, so I won't. No, but I went home and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do so much work from home, and I was so tired. I couldn't even, well, the cat even kept me from lying down and trying to rest because he was snuggled up in a place where, and I wasn't moving him. So, which meant I couldn't lie down and take a nap. So, that's on me. But you may have seen that post on social media and gone, ooh, I can't wait for the kits. And this morning you're like, where are the kits? I'll do my best. We have 2 appointments today, so maybe in the middle of that I can get some kit work done. So stay tuned. I'll be posting on social media things. Okay, I think I'm done.
Okay.
She's gonna wait for a second to make sure.
It's not a thing.
So what questions do we have? Where do you want to start?
We have an email and we have a letter.
You did say that.
Yes.
I think. I was happy. I'm pretty sure.
I may
Squirrel.
not have. I don't.
I had things I had to say still. So
welcome to the world of Liz and Rebecca.
This is why it's called the Liz and Rebecca Show.
It goes on all day long.
This is what we do, and you get a window into it. So yeah.
I'll start with the email. Please.
It did come in first, I think. Even though the letter might have been mailed first, because the person, we don't tell who sends these, but the person, we know who sent this, and they're like, I sent it long before, you know, anyway. Mail is rough around Christmas time. So yes. Go ahead.
Are you not?
I don't know. Why don't you continue anyway?
Greetings, O fount of all knitting knowledge. I have made myself a hat by Woolly Wormhead in the 65% wool, 35% alpaca. It is a thing of beauty. Mostly garter stitch, and yes, I swatched the beggar. It has stretched and sits like a sack from the peasants' rebellion upon my head. Is there a magic formula for shrinking things? Just a tinge. So once again, I may sport its gloriosity without becoming suddenly blind. Waiting with bated breath and limited vision, Harry Hat from Hertfordshire.
Harry Hat from Hertfordshire. Well, that almost gives a clue to who it is, but only if people know our people. Okay, I had so many thoughts, and I know you've already since talked to her, but we're going to talk here. So using felting as a sizing solution might sound like a fantastic idea. You heard my might. First of all, a total disclaimer. On purpose, I think I felted one thing in my entire life. It's not my wheelhouse. It's not the thing I enjoy engaging in.
I felted 2 or 3 crocheted bags, a knit bag in the washing machine. And then I've hand felted a pair of slippers where you lay the roving down and
I've done that once, too. I've done like a felted scarf. It's like see-through. It's weird, but it was a fun experiment. So let's start off with, let's back up a second, and I will say, okay, I'm totally swirling here, but
It's not
it's not a thing. I will say that if anyone out there, some people, felting is their jam. Like they love it. And anyone watching this who is a felter, feel free to put in the comments what works for you. But we always speak from our own experience, which in this case is me, teeny tiny, and in the other one that's coming up is even teeny tinier. But we'll share what we know or what we've heard from people. So backing up to what is felting, we may have talked about it on the show before, but we're coming up on 100 episodes, so you'd have to figure out and find where it is or remember it from months ago. Felting is the idea of kind of shrinking. It is a shrinking type of idea when it comes to knitting. And I think we've even talked about this even more recently. Felting happens. It's where, I want to use like matted, blah, 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 but it's where fibers, especially with animal fibers, is more often where it happens. It's where the scales that, if you looked under a microscope, especially wool, but any animal fiber, there are scales overlapping on the fiber. And with heat and agitation, remember I think it was even just yesterday.
And a little bit of soap.
And does it have to have the soap? See, this is where it's not my house.
Yeah, actually, it does, because the soap, once everything opens up, the soap allows the fibers to slip and slide.
Oh, okay.
Within each other.
Maybe that's why sometimes it goes wrong.
Does become a glorious mat.
Yeah. But yeah, it's I'm sorry. No. Okay, because I'm really good at cutting people off, especially lips. So, as you may have noticed, I just get so excited talking with my hands. So it's the scales open up with the heat and especially the agitation, and then when that goes away, they lock back down. Or during the whole process, they open up and lock back down, and you can, with more agitation, potentially get them to lock tighter, or do more of this or less of it. So by opening up and grabbing on and locking down, things get smaller and more interwoven. And if done right, sometimes you don't even see the stitches anymore, which is really cool. So if a piece of felt, I mean, it's not that someone like knit something and felt it, but it looks like a piece of felt when you're done. It's more of a matted surface, right? So to get back to this, so our letter or email is from someone who has a wool and alpaca blend, right? That will felt. It may not felt as well as 100% wool. When you mix the fibers, there's different scales trying to lock at that point. And so it will, but it'll be even more unpredictable than 100% wool. And 100% wool has its own unpredictability too. Like you felted a bag for a customer.
So most of the time when I felt, I have a pattern. Like there's a recipe already
and
done.
And the theory again, to get back to theory, and then I'll toss you is like you make it bigger, a lot bigger than it needs to be, and it shrinks. It's almost like, think about shrinky dinks in the oven again, but it's not just heat, it's heat and agitation. And
Just
stuff.
a little.
But the main ingredients, I mean, I think it sounds like the soap makes it successful.
Soap is just as important as the heat.
I hadn't heard that. I'm learning as we go. But I can't remember if the thing that I made a little felted pumpkin. And maybe that's why you could still see some of the stitches. I think I used soap, but maybe I didn't know it was essential. But people talk about, oh, don't soak stuff in hot water, it'll felt. If it's just sitting in the hot water, it might get fuzzy.
It requires other things.
Yeah, it's not going to happen just by getting it hot. Like some people felt in the washing machine, and some people felt by boiling. But again, that's not just heat happening. I've never done the boil thing. No, and the boiling is the agitation.
There is, you can hand felt like in the sink or whatever.
Do your own agitation.
Yeah, it's.
Oh my gosh, I get so tired.
One of my felting books for this purse that I used to.
That's probably how people did it before they had.
It was, you take your hot water and you take your soap and you put your thing in and you take like almost like an old timey
Like a stick or something? Or?
no, like a scrub board, because you want to mash on the fibers if you're laying out your felting.
Like a
Some people,
washboard?
yeah, a washboard.
Ah, okay.
Some people like for some of where you're laying out your roving fibers and you felt that down.
Actually sounds like
You have
fun
to
for
kind
some
of
reason.
like you wrap it in a bamboo placemat, like those rolly. We have the things to hold your
the stuff
paintbrushes.
the stuff that you make a
Yeah.
sushi on.
And you roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it, and it is death on your arms. It is. Some people will
Trying to get my workout in.
They'll get a sander that
Oh,
moves,
yeah,
and they just put a knobby cover, and it'll felt.
Ooh, if it wouldn't rip it apart, you could use a power screwdriver with a different end on it, but you have to have it on the lighter setting.
Yeah,
you know?
the sander goes,
Yeah.
just back and forth. I don't know that it's a drill.
No, it would.
Yeah.
Well, but a router might have the right head on that. Probably circulate. Anyway, rabbit hole. But no, but the theory is it will shrink and become smaller. But
so everybody's patterns and ideas are different. So there was a knitted purse that went around a couple of years ago in our shop. Like people would come in and go, "Hey, we're doing this knitted purse," and
my friend made it. I want to make it.
You knit a rectangle bag with a bottom. Like you do build a rectangle and then you pick up stitches around it and build up. And one of the ladies came in and said, "I need you to felt this for me." And I was like, no, because with felting, you don't know what it's going to turn out like.
Again, theory is that it goes zoop.
Yeah.
Reality is it could go zoop
or zoop. It does weird things. And I tried to pull out of this exchange for quite a while. And I told her, I was like, I don't know how it's going to felt. It could felt wrong. And she was making it, she didn't, they had just moved. She didn't have access to a washing machine,
She was probably worried that she would mess it up.
Yeah.
And we were like, there's no guarantee we're not going to mess it up.
And it was supposed to be like a laptop holder where it was long this way and it was supposed to shrink down a little bit and shrink in a little bit and shrink in a little bit. And I was like, look, I don't want, no, please.
And it could have been that the bottom was a different type of stitch than the sides, but it might not have been because of that.
And when I ran it through the washing machine and it felt it short. It did not felt narrow.
It became like
it did not shrink in. It looked like
basin kind of
right? Window planter.
Yeah.
And it felted beautifully.
It looked gorgeous because the felting, then all the colors intermingle. Again, you don't see the stitches. Yeah. It's so pretty. But it didn't proportionally felt. I think that's
for the latest knit project that I did. I don't think I increased my needle size the amount I should have to get it to felt down tighter.
You were saying before this, like bigger, looser stitches actually felt better than tighter stitches.
The crochet thing the book that I got about felting was like you need to make it a third bigger. So if you're doing single stranded worsted weight, which is like an H hook, they recommend going up to like a K. And I did a couple of swatches way back in the day where I took a tighter gauge and a looser gauge and I just ran little squares through, and the tighter the square started, it didn't felt as much as if it's really loose, like if they recommended like a third bigger, and everybody's like, but that's a lot.
But that's big and gappy and holy.
It gives you the room to felt.
The scales, I mean, I'm guessing, it gives the scales room to actually open up and move and grab. Whereas if it's a tighter knit, the scales are probably like, and it doesn't work, like that's my guess on it. And so that's for felting in general. Now this letter was about, I have something that's too big, and it was knit. It was knit to, like, it wasn't meant to be felt. So it's just knit and it's big, right? And they want to gently felt it and just shrink it a little. That's a dangerous gamble to take. Because it's one of those, first of all, it's not made with extra room to allow it to felt. some of it could felt more than others, so you might end up with a misshapen item, or the part you want to shrink could be the one part that doesn't. It might shrink up instead of in. It's just you're taking a chance, and you have to decide for yourself if you want to take that chance.
We have heard anecdotal, like from some of our knitters. One of our knitters, shout out to Amy D. She tried tightening up 2 hats in one day.
Well, she tried one, and then the other was an accident.
And well,
Was
kind
that?
of. There was issues. It wasn't in a perfect world. And the first hat, she got a little damp, and she ran it through the washing machine for not the washing machine, the dryer, for just a short amount of time, and it sucked up enough of the stitches. The second one got put in a pile of laundry, and
that's what I meant by an accident.
But it was accidentally kind of, but it had been discussed. Like she wanted to shrink it up a bit.
I missed that part of the conversation. That's why I'm getting a look.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm acting like I know what I'm talking about. Well, what happened to that was
it felted vertically and not this inward.
So that shout out to Amy. That is she picked up stitches around the bottom to lengthen it, and so he can still wear it. I mean, in some ways it's good that because it might have felted quite a bit. It still fits his head, but it's too short. So she has to rectify that. So now the interesting thing though is that alpaca wool blend might give it a little more wiggle room to not weirdly felt, like because the alpaca and wool might be fighting each other a little. So, but that also could keep it from being successful. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like in any way. Anyway, so that's and when things are big, caveat, that's not felting. When something comes up too big, I've seen this on Knit and Chat, and I think we have discussed it here before. You cannot block it smaller. I just want to make that very clear. If something, when you soak it to block it, suddenly feels like it's growing, you can smush it while it's damp back to the original size, and it will mostly, for a lot of things, that will work. Mostly. But if it was already, when it was dry, too big, there's no magic to blocking that's going to somehow tighten it up that I'm aware of. Just want to put that out there. And the second caveat is, yes, we said animal fibers felt, but if it says superwash on the label, that is your sign. Like, again, the science of it are these scales, which sometimes make people think something is itchy. That's more the lanolin than the scales. But the scales open up and grab in on each other. Superwash the yarn has been chemically stripped of those scales. So there's nothing to grab. I think we have heard someone who somehow successfully felted or steeked superwash. And steeking, again, is slicing through your knitting. Oh, terrifying. But it's based on those scales grabbing still.
We have heard anecdotal evidence of people who threw superwash stuff in the washer, and it did felt up a bit.
Yeah, like it didn't survive the washer the way it should have because it was superwash. And who knows if that's because of the blend it was. Yeah. That was a cashmere blend, I want to say. And who knows if that was, and I don't know if it, because it was anecdotal and they were just saying, hey, this happened. It didn't wash well. We don't know if it felted, if it matted, if it just got fuzzy, like what happened. It could be that the yarn, which claimed to be superwash with those scales removed, because of the blend or because of the process, it didn't work the way it was supposed to. We didn't see it, we just heard about it. So we got 15 minutes left, so we should get to our other letter.
Okay.
Had fun with that.
Do you want to read it?
Sure. I was just thinking, maybe I should read it. Okay. Dear Becky and Lizzy, how do I start selling my original knitting pattern designs? Where do I find knitters to test my pattern first? And what is the accepted process? Do I pay them or give them yarn or both? I can't seem to ever find the exact pattern to fit my imagined project, so I either combine elements from several patterns, which we affectionately call Carolizing here at the shop after Carol, one of our knitters who does this all the time. from several patterns, or I just create my own from the start and just gods start feverishly knitting with no direction or swatching. Yes, I wish I could do that. I don't have the confidence to do that. I'm like, I need a pattern and I'm gonna follow it. Yes, I need a Knitter's Anonymous 12-step program, especially because I don't weave in ends. I tie knots. You do you. I don't recommend knots, but I'm not gonna stop someone else from tying knots. Anyway, sorry. Thank you both so much. Signed, the naughty knitter. I like it. Okay, so the question is, how do I start selling my original knitting designs? She already is asking a good first question after that of where do I find knitters to test my pattern? Because there's writing a pattern, so she's creating her own designs. That's fantastic. And then there's writing it down, which is part of what the Knitting Masters program. There's one by the Knitting Guild of America. That's part of what the Knitting Masters program is gearing you towards. There's a lot of other stuff in there. But one of their hopes is if you go through the program, the 3 levels, you'll learn how to write a pattern with all the formulaic things that people are looking for in patterns, because that's one of the big things that can make your pattern succeed or fail. Is you're writing it according to what makes sense in your head, and someone else reading it goes, huh? This makes no sense, and it's dead on arrival. So the question, first of all, if you don't know that formulaic stuff, the more patterns you engage in, the more you start to see the formula of like info and gauge and information that helps you is going to help someone else. Information that is in all these patterns is something you want to have in yours. But that whole, it makes sense to me, publish, yay, why is no one buying it? Getting test knitters is vital to a successful publication process. And again, I have to make a disclaimer here. This is not my wheelhouse. I know of this and I know it's a good thing to do, but I don't publish my own patterns, partially for that reason. Also, I don't have time. I don't have time to write stuff down, and I wish I could dream up my own patterns
there have been
write them. And
a couple of projects you started, i.e. scarves. And you're like, I'm going to do this as a sun dragon scarf and do like a sampler.
I'm looking at my Yana XL thing. Yeah.
Up the, scarf. And I'm going to write down my instructions so that, somebody can redo this. And then life happens because we work in a yarn shop.
I have no time. Yeah, we work in a yarn shop. We sit around and knit all day. There's no time. So I haven't fully engaged in this process. I know people who have, or I know people who test knit, and it's wonderful. I talked to at least one of them. I mean, to get back to what I was saying before. When you have someone test knit, and when you have multiple people test knit it for you, I've done one test knit, actually, I'm now remembering. Way back when, for Charles Gandy, I made some socks for him, some holiday socks for a book. They were really fun. But I'm remembering it was my chance to read through the directions and make notes and say, this didn't make sense to me. Could you clarify? And he might decide that's just because you don't know what you're talking about, or he might decide that's because it doesn't make sense and I need to reword it. That's why more than one test knitter is good, because if they all say the same thing doesn't make sense to them, or they catch a typo, or they say the language you used here I've never heard before, then you know what you need to fix before you publish it. And the question in here is like, do I pay them, or yarn, or what? I think you're going to get different answers to that. The few people I was able to talk to, and there's other people I wasn't able to check in with before this episode. If anyone wants to comment who's a test knitter, please comment below. Some designers will offer yarn because they've written it for a specific yarn. They're working with a yarn company to promote their yarn.
Yeah.
So they'll want you to knit it in that yarn. So you get the right gauge. So there's all kinds of things. So they may offer yarn. They may offer to pay for your yarn. Oftentimes, or they might say, use your own yarn. It's fine. Oftentimes, I don't know if I've heard of many test knitters who get paid for their time. But it's not my wheelhouse. There could be a lot of test knitters who are going to write in and say, no, I charge this many hours or whatever.
Well, and they're like, I know on Ravelry, and people have issues with the Ravelry thing now, but on Ravelry, there are forums that could probably help
Mhm.
out with what test knitting,
Mhm.
you know. we're
And
gonna do.
honestly, Ravelry is one of the forums where you will get the widest range of people who will see your pattern when it's done. Yeah, there are forums to find test knitters. That is when when you start selling your original designs. You can do Etsy. You can do like Ravelry is a super database that a lot of people have access to. Not everyone uses it anymore. There's been stuff. A lot of people still do though. A lot of people, and there's so many different reasons why not everyone's on Ravelry anymore. But Etsy, people sell patterns. Ravelry, there are a few other, like, I won't call them fringe sites, but they're not as widely known. And you're only going to hit pockets of people. And that may or may not work for widest access. I want to say Rachel Newen lists things in 3 places.
Yeah.
And I'm forgetting what the one is that's not Etsy.
There's Love Crafts.
Yeah, I forget which. I can go back and try to look up what she uses. But to get back to test knitting, sorry. Squirrel. Okay, I'm bouncing around now. Test knitting. I've also heard that a lot of people test knit and they will get the finished pattern for free when it's done. And for some test knitters, that's all they need is to have that pattern and not have to pay for it and have the street cred of saying, I test knit for this. Of course, for some people, they do it for that, for the acknowledgement. She's already here. For the acknowledgement of I did this, or being a test knitter gives you street cred. It gives you like, ta-da, here I am, I'm important, so that could be enough. It really is talking to more people and finding out, or going on these forums and seeing what people are saying. So, and then to go back to publishing your own patterns, there's also, you can publish them on your own blog, and some people will find them off of that blog and maybe they'll stick them on Ravelry. You can put it out there yourself. It's just you yourself putting word out is only going to hit so many people. And so it's engaging in the forums you feel comfortable engaging in that larger numbers of people tap into. Some people will put their stuff on Knit and Chat. They'll say, hey, I've got a pattern. But often that is a pattern that people can access through a larger vehicle like Ravelry, especially if they want to get paid for it.
We have had a couple of knitters who have written patterns bring in a sample and leave patterns that, if you buy this yarn to make my pattern, you can get the pattern here. So talk to your local LYS, because some local LYSs, like, it's hard for us now to do that. This was pre-pandemic, but it's hard for us now to do that because we don't have people in and out all the time. But your local yarn shop could help with, just trying to get news out.
Yeah. Or if you want someone to test knit, I would put it, I would put a call out in, I'd be the go-between, put a call out in my newsletter.
Yeah.
If you want to test knit for other people, I could do that in my newsletter too, but I don't know how many people in my newsletter are writing patterns. So, but yeah, I think we kind of have to wrap up because our lesson is everyone comes early for their appointments, which is wonderful, but then you have to wait out in the cold because it's not like a doctor's office. We're not going to let you wait inside because inside is bad.
Well, some doctor's offices aren't letting you wait inside.
Oh, I know. I'm talking pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you have to wait in your car.
Yeah.
So same thing here. Anyway, I think we'll wrap up so we can let her in. But I hope that was helpful. If you want a question answered, if you want us to talk about what we know about, which could be a lot and could be a little, but we'll try to check on things.
These were stumpers today.
They were things that we can't ourselves say, oh, well, haha. But I like learning things too.
Yeah.
So write us at, cover this part up, Dear Becky and Lizzy, Sun Dragon Art and Fiber, 35 South Broad Street, Brevard, North Carolina, 28712.
Or email me, liz@sundragonartandfiber.com.
Did she not?
She did.
Okay. And we have knit night. She's gonna go tell her to hang on for just a second. We have knit night tomorrow night from 6 to 9 p.m. and use the shop phone number to join in. And other than that, we'll see you next week. A week from Saturday, we're going to have the Facebook and Zoom side by side. And other than that, I'm going to wait until you next week because we got to wrap up. Okay? Bye.